It's never perfect, and at some point I have to cut it for good, at least for the demo release. Hello there, it's KyPDuk from KyPDuk Studio here. In this episode I'd like to quickly go through the current admin affairs in order to give you an idea of what's happening in the background, together with some updates on current feature improvements, so the episode will be relatively short. I'd also discuss some further planned improvements and ideas which I'd like to add. A very important bit which I'd like to express before I start. Over the last few weeks I have been trying to find a way to present devlogs and a solid dev series and have been engaged in some marketing studies on the way things should be presented to appeal to most people. But firstly, I do understand and have always known that my game is not for most people, which is fair enough. Secondly, I don't want to create a snot-full emotional stories to touch your souls in order to hook you. It would be quite weird coming from the guy who says, if you're emotional, you're not rational. Thirdly, I just want to be real, and I want you to hear me, not some highly processed, full of marketing bullshit version of me. To be real, that was one of the aims of starting the studio. So let's get back on track. Feature improvements so far, some of my thoughts on what I'd like to add further, and some administrative affairs. The feature which I decided to expand and improve before the demo release is the runner level functionality. That was the state of the level before any improvements, and it has been upgraded gradually. First of all, a few weeks back I added those nodes just for tutorial reasons. For instance, the jump over action caused quite a pain in the arse during the playtest. Some people just didn't get how to trigger it, and that's fair enough, as there was no explanation at all whether the character jumps or not. In the normal game mode, which is about 90% of the gameplay, the character cannot jump, duck or slide, so adding those tutorial nodes in the first runner level makes sense. But there is another issue with this level, and it's the case that it's super boring, well, in my opinion. The thing is, the level was initially introduced to diversify the gameplay a bit. That was really it. So I never bothered much about it, as the level was supposed to be more like a transitional minigame. But the more I looked at it and the more feedback I got on it, the more I came to the conclusion that it should be expanded to make it a bit more engaging. So I decided to introduce vertical character movement. The character will still be constantly running one way, but you will also be able to move the character up and down the path to avoid some narrow obstacles, meanwhile still being able to jump over and slide below some of them. I think this will diversify the short gameplay further. There is another element which I'd like to add to the level to make it even more filled with obstacles, and it is to introduce similar NPC spawning as the one currently used in the world. Like that, I can introduce more obstacles, though currently NPCs can move only left and right, and I'm thinking about creating a slightly changed version of the script so those NPCs will also be able to move vertically. I think that will be a good addition, though as usual I'll be very happy to hear your thoughts on this, so please comment below. Now on the further improvements, as I'm not done with this feature yet. The next improvement consists of visual and functional parts, and I'll start with functional part, as in my head it just makes sense to start with. So far I haven't spent enough time on what happens after the character fails during the runner level. And as of now, a simple level restart occurs. And I mean it, you won't see much. You just run, then you bump into some obstacle and that's you done. And there is no response whatsoever. The game just restarts the same level from the start, and as you can imagine, I'm not fond of it and I don't think many people will be. So I decided to add this response. The whole thing will consist of a few elements: animation, music or sound effect, and a very unexpected element, confirmation to restart. Starting with animation. The idea so far is to make a few falling animations and play one depending on the situation. By situation, I mean what the character will bump into. Then, Following these, a few security officers will run towards our protagonist and beat the shit out of him. Everything should be accompanied with sound effects and, I'm still not sure on this, probably different music. That's game over, with the restart level confirmation screen popping right after with another music, and that's why I think the different music during the death animation might actually be an overkill. That's the idea and something which I have already started to work on. Again, please comment on the idea if you think it can be handled better. Alright, so we're close to the end of the episode and I'd like to wrap up with a quick studio update. I have been quite busy with non-game directly related stuff, let's call it housekeeping. If you have ever visited the website, it looks kind of sad, specifically if you view it through your phone, as I broke some responsiveness when introducing new content, and that happened because I didn't use some framework but decided to dip my hands in and create my own. Though I have never really been into front-end, so I never refined whatever I created. Anyway, I decided that there is no way I'll be having such a failure of a website, so that's something I'm wrapping up now. As you can see, I changed quite a lot in terms of representation, but also in terms of the tech stack I used. I will be deploying that next week, so that will be out of the way. That's really it for this episode. I would really appreciate it if you can hit those thumbs up and subscribe buttons, it really helps to spread the word about this game. Have a very nice day, night, or whichever time of the day it is for you now, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.